Hi, this is a video for IT 221 on Chapter 6, Manipulating Data. And this is going to do mostly with insert, updates, and deletes. Couple of quick notes. Up till now, nothing that we have done has affected the underlying database, but these commands do. They change the data in the database and are consequently a little bit dangerous. I'll talk a bit more about that as we get to some of the particularly updates. So I'm going to move this over so I can follow it while I do that. I'm going to go to my PG admin, which is already set up. And what we're going to do is we're going to insert a couple of people. And I want to show you some ways to do that. So we're just going to insert into person. So insert into person. So that's the main syntax. Then what you want to do is list all of the columns. So we don't want to do person key because it's an auto number. If it is not a serial, if it's not an auto number, you will have to enter it. But I'm going to do person last name, person email, person primary phone, and person date added. Alright, so these are the fields that we're going to enter into. And then what we do is we do values. And we can do, we need to give it a name, person last name. I have no idea. Brown. There's, I'm sure, a couple of Browns in there. Oh, we need person first name too. Lori. Do I know any Loris? I don't know. Lori. And then personal email, I'm just going to say L Brown. And again, it has to be in single quotes because it's text. L Brown at hotmail.com. We're going to do primary phone 206-555-1212. Actually, let's do something a little different because that probably is in there. And then let's do the person date added is, we'll just do the current timestamp. Okay. So if I run that, it will say that one row, I inserted one and the query was run successfully. And we could do a quick query. Let's just do select star from person. Let's go for email. Where person email equals, and then we'll just copy this. And they're there. Okay, so we've inserted a new person. And the current timestamp, it just has the date, so it's just the date. Alright, so we've added the person. Now, if we wanted to add their address, so we could do insert into person address. Alright, and then we want for person address, columns, we want, again, it's an auto key, so we don't want that, but we do need the person key. We need the person address street, person address city, Although we can actually leave, well, we can leave that out because it's a default. And the same with the state, but we do have to put in the zip code. You'd have to know that those are defaults. You would have to know the structure of the table. It's often better just to enter all of them. All right, so when I do the values, person key is, looked it up here, it's 133. Person address street 1002 somewhere Ave. Again, the city will be Seattle because we've already got that as a default. The zip I'm just going to do as 98001. I have no idea. And the apartment we're just going to make null. Okay, we're going to say they don't have an apartment. So we run that. It's person, address, zip code. Okay, so it returned that. And we can kind of test that by doing select star from person where, or from person address where person key equals 133. And we see that they're there. And we see that Seattle and Washington were automatically entered. Okay. So that's a simple one. I want to show, let's enter one more person. I'm going to do select, or not select, let's do insert into person. And we'll list all the fields again. Okay, so we've got all the person values. And I'm going to just make up another last name. Let's just do Nelson. Morgan. 101 Michigan Street. I have no idea. Oh, oops, this isn't. We just want an email. So I'm going to do Nelson M. Morgan at gmail.com. Primary phone 206. Actually, let's change it to 360-555-6671. And we're going to add, all right, so that should be all right. And date added is current timestamp. Or actually, current date will work because it's only a date. All right, but let's say we want at the same time to enter their address. We could do that at the same time, but we don't know their person key yet. So I'm going to copy from person address. We're going to change it a little bit. I'm going to add the city in here. Because it'll be not Seattle. All right, and then I'm going, and you can, if you want to put these all into a place where you can see them better, you can do something like this. And then I'm going to do the values. Okay, so the thing is we don't know the person key, but we do know it's an auto number, and this only works with auto numbers, by the way. So I am going to say we want to do I'm looking for the I think it's curval. Yes. We want to do a function, curval, and then we want to say person dot person key underscore sequence, SEQ. So a couple of things. Person. So if we look at sequences, it will show you the sequence for each of the tables, right? This is the name of the auto number that it puts in there. So that's what we need to put in there. And what that will do is it'll return whatever primary key it gives you for the insert above it in the person table. Okay, and then we want the street 101 elsewhere and the city I'm going to do is Bellevue, and the zip code is 98100. I know that's not an accurate zip code. And I'm going to say that their apartment is 201. And I believe that's also a string. Okay, so now we have two things here together that we can do. So I'm going to execute that. 101 elsewhere. What did it not like? This needs to be quoted. What does it mean schema person doesn't exist? Oh, another error. Underscore, not a period there. Now it goes. We might have a couple of gaps in our auto numbers. So I'm going to do select star from person, and I'm just going to go to the end to see what we got there. And if we go to the very, so this isn't where I want to go to the very bottom. This is where I want to go to the very bottom. Nelson Morgan. Notice that they went from 133 to 136. That's because of the mistakes that we made. Any mistake you made goes away. That number is never used again. And that's fine. It doesn't matter. Right? So now I'm going to look for person address where person key is 136. And it should have our address. And it does. So it entered both of those. So cur value will give you the last sequence generated in the table that you list. All right, I want to show a couple of other things about selects. I'm going to try to, we've added 2 people. I want to add them to the login table because we didn't do that. I'm going to do insert into login table. Person key, person username, person password. All right. And I'm going to do this a little bit different. Instead of values, I'm going to do select. And I'm going to select the person key. I'm going to do some of the functions that we've done before. Substring. So I'm going to get person first name. I'm going to basically only take the first character of the person first name. And then I am going to concatenate it with the last name, the person last name. That's their username. So this is the substring, this is person last name. All of this is going to be lower, concatenated. And then I'm going to use a function that I hope is here. Create password, person last name. And we're going to concatenate it with the word pass. Single quotes. Okay, this is really complicated. From person, where person key is greater than 132. So it'll include all the ones that we've done so far. So just to walk through it again, we're going to insert into the login table. We're going to insert 3 fields: the person key, the person username, and the person password. And we're going to do a select from person, where we're going to get the person key. We're going to take their first letter of their first name and their whole last name as the username. We're going to use a create password function for a person to create the password. And we're going to get this from person. And so we're going to insert multiple rows at the same time. Now, if we go to select star from login table, I'm just going to go to the end of the login table. We should have 133 and 136. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the login table, and there's 134. So 133 and 136 for the person key. Notice it took the first name, first letter of their first name, and then the brown, first letter, first name, and it created a password based on their name, an encrypted password. That's what the password function does. We'll talk about it more later, but that's something that I have written for you. One other thing I want to talk about in multiple inserts at the same time in a different way. So I'm going to insert into donation. And this will be person key, donation amount, donation date. I think I'm not even sure. Let's just do donation amount. I think the date will automatically populate the way I set up the tables. And I'm going to do values, and I'm going to do the person key is 133, and the amount is, let's just say 400. Just add a couple of zeros to that. And then I'm just going to do a comma and do another parentheses and say 136, $340. And you can do this for as many as you want. You can just keep adding a parentheses and keep adding them down. So this is another way to do multiple inserts. All right, so let's do that. And that's 2 who are successful. So let's go to select star from donation. And we'll look at the last 2. And there's 133 and 136, and there's their amounts that they donated. It did give the date, and it gave the time, and it gave the validation UID. All right, so those are inserts. Updates got moved here. Updates are pretty easy, but they're dangerous. So let's talk about them. Let's do a quick update. First I'm going to do just select star from person. And we're going to look at what's in person so we can see it before we update something. All right, so we got Jerry Smith. Actually, let's do it order by person key. All right, so we have Lynn Kendall, we have Linda Carroll, we have Jamal Jacobs, we have Toby Zimmerman, we have Roberto Valdez. Oh, I'm trying to think of who we might want to change. Let's do Bob Carmel. Let's say his first name. He wants it changed to Robert. All right. So updates change data that already exists. So I'm going to say update person. And I am going to say set person first name equals Robert. And let's say that he also wants his email change to, so I'm going to say person email. And we're going to say it equals rcarmel@gmail.com, and that should be single quotes. And then this is really important, where person key equals 6. You need to limit it, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. First, we'll run this. All right. So it says that it returned successfully. If we run this again, we'll see that it's now Robert Carmel, and the email is now rcarmel. So our changes went through. Okay, and you can change multiple things at once, but I'm going to show you a danger. But before I do this, I'm going to make a table where we can screw up. Don't do this on your own unless you do this. So I am going to say select into person 2. Select star from person into person 2. I think that works. Oh, select into person 2 from person. Let me look. So it selects star into person. All right, so I'm going to run that. Let's put a semicolon there. All right. If we refresh the tables now, you'll see that there's a person 2. And if I select star from person 2, we will see that it is an exact copy of person table. This is a neat way to make a new table. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm going to do some terrible things that I don't want to do to the person table. Because if you do them to the person table, your database will be ruined. This is a way that you could get fired. I'm going to say update person last name. Update person. Set person last name equals Smith. All right, and let's put an I on there. Without a where clause, what happens is that this will update. Okay, and we don't want to do this. We're just about to screw up our lives. All right, this will update person 2. And now if we select star from person 2, every single person in the database is named Smith. I call this my Matrix 3 version, if you guys saw Matrix 3 with all the Smiths. There's no undo. You've basically just screwed up the database and could lose your job. And it's so easy to do. You saw that I almost did it right there. It's really crucial to do that. Now, there's a reason why you might want to, why it's not illegal to do that. But it would be nice if it gave you a warning, but it doesn't. So I am going to do a legitimate update of everything in one place. But I'm going to also show, well, I'll do a couple of things. First I'm going to, so we'll do the update. We will update grant application, grant type. And what we want to do is we want to set the, I just want to look at grant type to get the field names right. We want to do set the grant one-time max, grant type one-time max. It's going to be equal to the grant one-time max times 1.05. We're going to give it a 5% increase. We're also going to do comma, not periods, comma, grant lifetime max, grant type lifetime max is going to equal the same thing. Grant type lifetime max times 1.05, and that should be a point. So this is a legitimate one. Before I do this, let's just do a quick select from grant type. So I am going to do that, and we'll see that this, like the one time is 200 and the other one is 600. I just want to show you the effect of this. So when we run this, let's put a semicolon on it will update everything, but this is a legitimate update. I spelled something wrong. I put a "the" in there. Talking and typing don't go together sometimes. It's grant type one time max. Okay, so that's successful. Now, if we look at grant type now, instead of 200, it's 210. Instead of 600, it's 630. Each one has gone up by 5%. So that's a legitimate time when you don't need a where clause. But generally, you absolutely must have a where clause. I'm going to show you one last thing with this. It's not something you can usually do in a production environment, but it's something that you could do here just to protect yourself a little bit. So I'm going to do a thing called begin transaction. All right. Although actually before I do this, I am going to before I do this, I'm going to drop person 2. So I have to say drop table person 2. This actually drops it. It gets rid of the table. So it's no longer there. And then I'm going to run this again to recreate the table with all the data in it without it all being Smith. All right, so I'm going to do begin the transaction, and I'm going to do our horrible mistake. So I'm going to real quickly do this. Now, it's really important that you actually begin the transaction, that you run that code. Couple things is that that's going to suspend that table until you end the transaction in some way. Again, that's why I say it's not usually doable in a production environment because you have locked that table. So I'm going to do that. It says that it's successful. If I do select star from person 2, we'll see that everybody is a Smith. But because I began the transaction, I can roll back a transaction. So I'm going to run that. And then when I run this, you'll see that it went back to the normal things. So if you explicitly begin a transaction, when you're done, you can test it and you can roll back the transaction. If it's good, you can do commit transaction. You can only do one or the other. So let's do, I'm going to begin the transaction. I'm going to destroy the table again. Now if I commit it, it is permanently damaged. There's no going back again. So I'm going to actually skip down to Truncate. And I'm going to say truncate table person 2. Again, make sure it's person 2 if you're doing this. And now if I look at person 2, it's empty. The table has been emptied of all data. That's what Truncate does. It deletes all the data from a table. Now I've dropped the table. Okay, so let's talk about deletes. Let's delete. So let's try to delete from person where person key equals 136. Now your keys may be different. If you didn't make the mistakes I made, your keys would be different. But if I do this, I'm going to get an error. And I can't delete it because it violates the foreign key constraint. There's a person in donation. That key is used in donation. If I want to delete person 136, I first have to delete from donation where person key equals 136. This is so that you don't leave orphans there. A donation without a person, that would be a bad thing. So if I delete the donation, then I can delete the person, and they will be gone. Again, there's no undo. Oh, I have a login. So I have a login table thing for that. So I'd have to delete that again before I could delete the person. There can't be any foreign keys outstanding. That being said, a foreign key table like donation, if I were to just delete from donation without a where clause, it would just delete all the donations. There would be nothing to stop it. They would just be gone. And again, there would be no warning. It would just be gone. So you have to be really careful with updates and deletes. You should be really careful. And you should be somewhat careful with inserts, because you don't want garbage in your database. But these three things affect the database for real. They don't just return data from the databases. Okay, so I'm going to call that good for this video. And again, read the chapter. It has more detail.